start. Here we go. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Michelle with Convergent Nonprofit Solutions, and we're going to give everyone 1 to 2 minutes to go ahead and join. While we wait, if you would please feel free to drop your name, title, and organization in the chat. That would be great so that we know who is all with us. And while we are doing that, let's go ahead and see.
Never mind. There she is.
She's here.
Hey, Miss Connor.
Hi,
Hello, how are you?
Good.
Good. Sorry, it's craziness.
No. You
Sounds,
got good craziness
yeah,
going.
that's right. I was just going to use that word, good crazy.
Yeah, yes.
All righty. I think we've got a good amount of our participants in. Thank you, Adrian White and RJ, for mentioning in the chat who you are and where you're from. So I'm going to go ahead and start our recording and we're off to the races. So, good afternoon, everyone. We are in for a treat today. Our presenters are Pam Reid and Andy Brubaker with Convergent Nonprofit Solutions, and they will be presenting the third part of the Build and Engaging an Exceptional Board webinar series titled Board Members' Role in Fundraising. So, real quick before I pass it over, the webinar will be 45 minutes long and is being recorded. We would love if you guys would share your questions in the chat. And if they are relevant to what we're discussing, we'll go ahead and take care of them. And if not, then we will touch on them at the end. So, I will go ahead and pass it over to Pam.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Well, again, welcome to Building and Engaging an Exceptional Board. We are so glad that you're here. This is actually the finale, the fourth in a series where we've been talking about a host of things. So in September, we talked about recruiting the right board members, the selection process, the orientation. In October, we talked about effective board management. That was all about governance versus management and how to keep our board members in the right place. And in November, we talked about board members' role in fundraising, which we all know exists, right? It's a responsibility. And today, this December, we're talking about top tips for board engagement. I'm Pam Reid. I'm a business consultant and senior funding strategist with Convergent Nonprofit Solutions. My focus is in the Atlanta area. And I have with me today my colleague, Andy Brubaker, who is going to not only introduce himself, but introduce our esteemed panelists. Andy?
Well, thank you, Pam, and hello, everybody. Apparently, I am making our screen go faster than I'm talking, which maybe I should have enhanced my mouse and fingers instead of my ears. So I hope everybody is enjoying this beautiful day. Again, I am Andy Brubaker with Convergent Nonprofit Solutions and really excited to be in our last of four seminar sessions. And just want to say thank you to Pam, first off, for a great journey and really excited about today because we get to showcase some amazing people that we have worked with over the years and who have trusted our company to support them and guide them in the work. And one of the things that I really love about this work is I am constantly learning from people that I meet all over the country. And Jeff and I have had the pleasure of working together, who I'll introduce in a moment, as Pam and Melody have done the same. And I just learn so much every time I interact with amazing leaders. And so we're thankful to have on with us today two exceptional individuals. And in this, we want to share that we originally had four people that were going to be on the panel today. One is off to the races with a donor visit. Pam and I get it that when you are running a nonprofit and the major donor says, I can meet now, Sometimes things get canceled or moved, and so we really appreciate it. And some of you know Robin Mauck, who recently her and her family experienced a personal loss. We wish them well uh, during this holiday season, where maybe they find some moments of peace, comfort, and joy. But today, we are proud to have two exceptional leaders. And when I say exceptional, I don't say it lightly. I'm going to start, alphabetical order here. So Jeff Baldwin, longtime leader, longtime champion for youth development. His career spans education. I mean, the guy got a bachelor's degree in education and went to the races from there. He's been in entrepreneurship, nonprofit leadership, including nearly 2 decades as the CEO of the Boys and Girls Club of Bloomington, and that's Bloomington, Indiana. And under his leadership, that organization expanded into multiple communities. They grew their daily youth participation from 150 daily participants to nearly 700. And when he retired a year ago, they had over 3,000 registered members as a part of their organization. Today, he's serving as the Legacy Fund Director and Community Impact Director at Sherwood Oaks Christian Church. Jeff remains deeply committed to helping young people realize their fullest potential. And so we're grateful to have him with us today. I'm also really pleased to introduce Melanie Connor. She is the CEO of Rainbow Village in Duluth, Georgia. Melanie leads one of the region's most impactful organizations serving families experiencing homelessness with a mission centered on help, hope, housing, and healing. Her career spans corporate leadership, community development, and public service. And interestingly, I've really enjoyed learning this. She's an ordained elder in the African Methodist Episcopal Church, being the son of an ordained elder with the United Methodist Church. I can feel that journey, and she has a deep commitment to service through transformational leadership. Melanie brings both strategic insight and a heart for work, and we're very grateful to have her with us today. And so thank you to the two of you for joining us. I am actually going to turn the screen off so that when they are asked questions and share their feedback, they pop up. So Pam, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, wonderful. And thank you. Those were great introductions. So, as I mentioned earlier, back in October, we talked about governance and management and the difference between the two. So, anyone who's been following us since day one, we all understand what that is. So, my first question would be, and I'm going to do kind of a ladies first, and I'm going to start with you, Melanie. And I'm going to ask you, so within your organization, what helps your board stay focused on big picture strategy without slipping into micromanaging?
Yeah. So I think, one of the things I try and do is involve them only in the things that they need to be involved in, right? I will remind them on occasion if they start to slip into the management role that, gently, of course, that is not their role, and try and redirect them a little bit to, what we need to talk about. But the other thing that we do, I think, is my board chair and I, which I know we'll probably talk a little bit more about this later, but we work really well together. And that helps, having a strong board chair also helps to ensure that the other folks on the board are aware of what their roles are, too.
Wonderful, wonderful. And Jeff, same question to you.
Yeah, a good question. I think a lot of it has to do with upfront understanding of the role of the board and the role of the CEO. We spend a lot of time communicating that, even as we're recruiting potential board members about what their role would be. Understanding that it is as strange a relationship as it is that yes, I'm hired by the board, but I also manage the board, right? Mm-hmm. Having the board very clearly understand that they've hired me, they've empowered me, they give the autonomy to me to run the organization in much like the analogy I use is that we're on a bus and I am in a seat next to the board president who is driving the bus, kind of like a driver's ed kind of a situation. And I'm giving direction, map direction about where we're going. We've already spent all this time preparing the map, everybody in the bus, before we even moved. Everybody understands it and agrees to it and created and contributed to it. And I'm helping just to navigate the trip. And sometimes I might have to grab my steering wheel because I have one, and I might even have to tap the brake occasionally.
Mm.
But the idea is to empower the board president to lead and to move down an agreed upon pathway, thus keeping them, they're not diving into the weeds. They're not telling me to, Jeff, you need to get in the very back of the seat and gag him, please, so we can go where we need to go.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it's very much a co-work, relationship, but I am entrusted to call the shots and give them what they need.
Okay, great. I love that analogy. Before we move on, and I know Andy, you'll probably make a quick comment. Melanie, you mentioned it's helpful to have a strong board chair. What, tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, I think that I've been in other organizations where the board chair was not aware of what their role was, no matter what I tried to do to help them get there. But if you inherit somebody, then you kind of get what you get until you can make a change. But I think that the relationship between the executive director and CEO and the board chair is hugely instrumental in the direction that the board takes. And so me and my board chair meet regularly, not just when we're about to have a meeting. She's aware of what is going on. If something is great going on, of course, I share that with everybody, but I also make sure I share it with her first. If something bad is going on, I share it with everybody, but I make sure that I share it with her first, or him, depending on who it is. It's a her right now. So I think that there's value in ensuring that first that the board chair understands their role and what your role is, similar to what Jeff was saying, but also that they have the confidence and understanding of how they need to help you manage the rest of the board. Because if I have 19 board members, so managing 19 people, and
Mm.
and I always say 42 different personalities, you know, can be a lot sometimes. So having a strong board chair who also understands and will support and help you in that area is just paramount to me in success.
Wonderful. Okay.
And I was going to say, I loved hearing both of your comments. I felt like you were with me as we were writing out these templates for our flow months ago for other, webinars. Strong board chair at the onset of recruiting a board member, that there's clarity in their role. And I mean, those are all so vital to the success of any nonprofit. There are other things that you can easily overcome, but if you don't have clarity and you don't have a strong board chair, it makes it
Mm.
really difficult. And we see that in a lot of places. So thank you. Thank you so
Wonderful.
much.
Okay. Jeff, I'm going to start with you on this next question. How do you match people's strengths to the committee work while making sure no one person feels overloaded?
Hmm. I feel like there's two questions there. Okay. Um, I'll cover the overloaded one first, maybe. So uh, our recruitment process, identification and recruitment process is one that um, we actually have a board committee whose sole purpose is to it's called the board engagement community and committee, and they're responsible for managing the annual process of identifying and then inviting board prospects into a process to look at what it means to be a board member. They're involved in then the onboarding part of that, and then the identification and coming up with all the names of people we should consider. Okay. Um, and as part of that process, when we're inviting people to take a look at what it means to be a board member, we have there's a lot of discussion around what it takes to be a board member, including the time commitment that you're gonna make. And we have a document called the board commitment menu. It has 11 different points on it that does a pretty darn good job of explaining, the overall roles and responsibilities of a board member. I always, cushion that with it's impossible for me to tell you everything, right? There's just no way to do that. But this does a good job of giving you a really good sense for it. And if people want to pin us down about how many hours a week can I expect, then we share that as well. It largely depends on whether or not you have a leadership role in the board or not. You might be a committee chair and your involvement's a little higher. Obviously, board president or any of the officers, you're going to be a little bit higher in regards to their commitment. So to me, the not overworking them thing has a lot to do with what you tell them and prepare them ahead of time, even before they've, finally said, yes, I would like to be considered a board member. So nobody's hoodwinking anybody in the game, right? It's not one of these, hey, see you somewhere, hey, want to be on our board kind of thing. No, it's long drawn out process, well communicated, so nobody's surprised and shocked, right? Doesn't mean that people don't get on the board and tell you that they're overwhelmed or there's too much going on. That does happen. It depends on who you are and what you've agreed to, how well you manage personally workloads and your time and priority and all that good stuff too, right?
Mhm.
So many times and I'm going on a little bit much, but a lot of times it's the board member just not
Right.
doing a great, they just need some help in regards to the prioritizing time. So that's that one. The other part, matching skill sets. Really, I look for three key things when I'm looking for board members. Are they somebody who exhibit leadership abilities? Are they doers? That's another characteristic. Are they somebody who just comes in and just they like to grab onto things? And what's my third thing I like to use? Shoot, um, leadership skills, doers. Um, I'm blanking on it,
That's
but
okay. Those
those
two
are the,
nuggets work well.
yeah,
Okay.
and and we select board members. Really, a lot of it has to do with just their adult attributes per what was already been shared about. If you're going to put somebody in a president's seat, they've got to have the skills and attributes to navigate that as a really efficient, strong, confident leader, right? And so we really look for people like that right out of the box, right? And just across the board on the board. We don't hunt people for whether or not they're a lawyer or a doctor or not, really, it's really focusing on getting some really good, strong, high functioning, healthy adults on the board is our key focus.
Okay, great. So that's interesting because oftentimes people look at the industries and where they may
Yes.
have gaps and look at that, but you're looking more at attributes, characteristics, and all that.
Yeah.
And that just really solidifies what we were talking about early in this series. So
Good.
thank you for that. So Melanie, how do you match people's strengths to committee work, and how do you make sure no one feels overloaded?
Yeah, so I think matching strengths for me is just making sure that I get to know the person. Because sometimes when I used to work in corporate America, people always wanted me to come and to volunteer and do the same thing I did in corporate America. I didn't always want to do that. I was already doing that all day. So I didn't want to go and do that when I volunteered. So, to Jeff's point, it's not always about whether it's an attorney or whatever, but what their interests are. Because if people are actually interested in what they're doing, it's very likely that they will continue to do it and do the work. So, you know, when I talk to potential board members, I try and get an idea of what their interests are, not just what they do, but what they like to do. I lay out, hey, here are the opportunities that we have, but what kind of fits with you, what resonates with you that makes sense that you would want to be a part of? Because it may not be, yes, I need an attorney, but they may not want to do that. That's what they do all day. So that's one of the things. And then as I get to know them, I feel like it's important for me to know my board members to a point where, again, I'm not just waiting and seeing them only at a board meeting. I engage with them in between those meetings. I check in to see how they're doing because sometimes, life happens and they can get overwhelmed. It doesn't have to be that they don't want to participate with what you're doing. It's just that all of my board members, a lot of them own businesses or run companies or and they have families and things are going on. And so recognizing that they are volunteers first for our board and understanding that they may need to step back or step away from time to time and just trying to make sure I'm keeping that connection and checking in with them as necessary. And then, sometimes you have to have that conversation with certain board members if they're not able to engage in the way that you need them.
Oh wow. Well, that's a great segue into the next question. And Melanie, I'll let you continue, when you talk about engagement. So, how do you approach it when a board member is disengaged or not even meeting expectations? What do you do?
Yeah, so a good friend of mine says you plaque them and whack them. That's what he says. But um, I am, and so in a much nicer way, it's kind of what you do, right? I will sometimes, again, I'll have the conversation because it may be something going on. They missed the last board meeting or they missed the last two board meetings. I just need to reach out and say, hey, I missed you at the board meeting, and they can say, oh, I'm really sorry, whatever. Or oftentimes they'll let me know ahead of time. But if they start to miss, because we don't meet every month, if they start to miss two or three board meetings or they're not attending any of the events, then I will just say, hey, can we have coffee? Do you have just a few minutes for us to have coffee? Just want to check in with you. When I meet with them, I thank them, first of all, for whatever service they've already provided, ask them if this is something they want to continue to do. Because oftentimes people either want to get off, but they don't want to tell you, or they just will try, they're still trying to keep making it work, but then they're taking up a space or a slot for folks. And so, yeah, for me, a lot of times it just literally is a conversation with my board member that may not be performing at the level that I need them to.
Understood, understood. Jeff,
Yeah, good.
so
Love the question. So, first thing I would say is that in regards to engagement, I'm always putting myself in the shoes of a board member. Would based on what it is that we do and what I've empowered them to do or asked them to do or be involved in, is, would I be somebody who would be an engaged board member? So I put a lot of it on me, CEO. Have I presented and put them in a situation that is exciting and worthy of engagement, right? Is there structure and activity and are they themselves having to lead? I try to get as many people as I can on my board leading as possible because when you're in that situation, your hand is forced. And as human beings, the reality is we need to be forced down a pathway. If left to our own devices, we will find the calm, quiet water and settle into it, right? And when a board member is in those places, that means they are disengaged with what's going on, and one thing will lead to another, and they'll there'll be somebody who's going to leave the board. If it is really somebody that is, we're working with and making efforts to, we do have an annual process where board members do go through an evaluation process. They self-evaluate themselves. We bring a couple things to the table, talk about, that always happens in November of the year. For the following year, we're preparing. To move on in their role. Either they are still in their 2-year term, or maybe they're ending a 2-year term, and we want them to stay engaged. We have that conversation, or we're having a conversation that simply is, "Hey, thank you for your service. We so greatly appreciate you and what you've done," and we allow them to exit the board at that point. So that's an annual process that we engage in as well. But Melanie's right. Communication's king, relationship is king. and just getting with people and hearing them out one-on-one, um, just as a general check-in is just really good practice to understand where they stand on things.
This is such good stuff, right, Andy? I mean,
It
everyone.
is. And Jeff is a master. When I was in his presence, I mean, he would be texting, calling, emailing, and it wasn't the same person. It was
Mhm,
almost always
mhm,
somebody different
mhm,
where he's
mhm.
checking in and then Jeff, can you share just real quick your, was it coffee that you hosted for board members to come to the club?
That was part of the I think you were around during a recruitment process. And that was so I'll go through it really fast. First of all, you gotta make the cut as somebody who is on a final list of 20 board members every year. And we start with 20 with the hopes that we get somewhere between 5 and 8 who actually make it all the way through the process. But there's a lot of work that goes into who are those 20 and a lot of discussion at the board level. First step is they come to a lunch and learn with me and they hear about mission. I just start with the heart, first thing first. No talk about the board at all. It's all about mission. And it's about an hour long, feed them a light lunch. Afterwards, I ask them what they thought about that and would they like to continue in the process? You want to keep going? You want to learn more about what it means to be a board member? 100% of the people usually go on from there. Next step, and this is what Andy's step is there's a coffee meeting with a handful of prospects, some existing board members, and you review together the board commitment menu. And you get to see fellow prospects, you get to see people who you potentially could be serving with on the board, and you get to hear questions and answers from a variety of different people to help you understand what might be what it means to be a board member. I go back to them. Hey, what'd you think? Would you like to continue in the process? Some people say they want to take the off ramp. A lot of people say they want to go forward, and they go forward, and there's a social event. All the board members, all the prospects, speed dating, understanding who everybody is, that kind of thing. And then they have one last chance to take the off ramp. So anyway, that's a real fast abbreviated version.
Okay, okay. Wow, good stuff. And I imagine that our attendees for this webinar are really soaking in all of this great insight from two very exceptional people. Um, so so Jeff, when you're looking at your board and you're trying to assess whether or not your board is truly effective, what are you looking at? What do you see that tells you that they are truly an effective board?
It really comes down to the board is intimately involved in all of our collective goals as an organization, right? So they're involved in our fundraising goal, there and how we're going to get there. They're involved in programmatic type goals. They're not as heavily involved in the programmatic side. We'd really like to keep them out of a lot of that. But they might be involved in, some kind of board satisfaction or engagement goal that we set. There's a whole variety that are all part of the strategic plan framework. And at the end of the day, we look around the room at the close of a year and how are we doing against all of these different measures that we've all agreed we're all going to be contributing to, right? And so certainly that is a big evidence piece. The other one would have a lot to do with retention of board members, right? Under really difficult circumstances. I ask a lot of my board, and if you can keep somebody through, the full term and they're not stepping off, retention numbers is really an important part of it too. Plus, they get to weigh in on annual surveys to assess the organization and the board itself, and it all will be shown in that as well.
Okay. Okay. Melanie, same question to you.
Um, so, of course, engagement and attendance. Are they coming to the meetings? Are they participating in the activities that we have? And then just kind of the quality of their discussion when they are there. When we talk about engagement, it's not just showing up for the meeting and meeting to meet, but actually being a part of the discussion, weighing in on the conversation and the topics that we're talking about, I think are often important. And then do they follow through on their commitments? Because sometimes you have people who will volunteer for things and then it doesn't actually happen. I don't have that problem. I'm very grateful for that. But it does happen. I've had boards where that's has been a situation, and they've taken on more than they can actually do, and it creates a problem for the board overall. So I think that that level of engagement is important. We also have a board engagement committee that works to make sure that those things are happening, work alongside me. Our board also does an annual self-assessment to ensure that they, again, the things that we've agreed on is not me saying whether they're doing a good job or not, but here are the things that you agreed to do. And so they can self-assess whether they're meeting those goals or not.
Wow. So, Andy, you shared how you've been able to engage with Jeff and the things that you've seen. I've had the pleasure of sitting in on, some of Melanie's board meetings, and so impressive to have what seems to me a fully engaged board. That's a blessing to any nonprofit executive. But with that, I want to ask us a question. Jeff, Melanie, I'll start with you, Jeff. But what keeps you engaged? What keeps you? Of course, I know you're retired, in that role, but you're
Yeah.
still in service. You have a service heart. What keeps you doing what you're doing?
Well, there's two things that always did for me. Was one, it is my servant's heart. It's what, it's my life, this is my story, right? My story is one that God has orchestrated my life in such a way that he had plans for me. These are the things I want you to do, Jeff. And so that,
So good.
and yeah, it always gets me. And so it's an absolute pleasure and honor
Yes.
to do it, right? And
I
then
don't know why you just got me. What happened?
sorry.
Oh,
Yeah. And then the other thing, as CEO of the Boys and Girls Club, is I just had, their kids and families that were counting on me, right?
Mhm.
And you got to go, right? And feet on the floor, and it's game on, right? And we're going forward today, and it's time to do great things and further the mission and movement of Boys and Girls Club. So
I love it. Melanie?
Yeah, I honestly, I can almost say that. If you go out and look on my website and see what it says there, it says, this was a God ordained opportunity for me to be here. But, I've been a single parent again, and so I know the struggles, and I know that, it could have been me. And so the families that we serve, I can see myself in them, and I know that. I was very blessed to have family and friends and mentors and others who would support me and make sure that I had what I needed, and not everybody does. And so, when you talk about what keeps me going, that's a part of it. But the other part of it is the people. I try to be very intentional about, even though I have to deal with the board and donors and all of those things, but trying to be very intentional about making sure that I know the families, that I know the folks that we're serving, that they know me, that I can walk through the campus and have a conversation. And I've heard, hey, I hear congratulations in order. I heard you got a new job, or, whatever the thing is. And that matters to them. It matters to me, but it matters to them that I care enough to know what's going on with them in their lives. And so, for me, that is the thing that continually motivates me. I don't ever want to be the person sitting in the office on meetings all the time, never able to talk to the people, because that is why I get up every morning. Sometimes my staff and my board can drive me a little cuckoo. But the families are the reason why we do everything that we do. Everything.
I love it. And I was actually listening to Arthur Brooks give a talk about, the difference of compassion and empathy,
Mhm.
and, how compassion is an active thing. You understand suffering, discomfort,
Mhm.
but then you take action to help others.
Mhm.
And both of you have made those pillars of the framework with which you have lives of compassion. And so thank you. And that's what drives people into this role.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The really good ones,
absolutely. Yeah,
So thank you both for sharing that.
yeah, that was beautiful. And Andy, thank you for that. I'm thinking, while, you know, just unforeseen circumstances brought us from 4 panelists to two. I shared with Jeff and Andy at the onset before we started recording, that whoever was supposed to be here is going to be here, right?
Right.
And this is just, I echo Andy's words. Thank you so much. So as we're, after 2 o'clock already, and I want to make sure that we have enough time to answer questions and such, Jeff, what quick wins would you be able to recommend for the organizations that are with us today, that would result in some immediate improvements
Hmm.
um, within their board governance?
Ooh, wow, there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of
They
different.
need help, Jeff.
Yeah.
They
Well,
need help.
one
Help them.
thing that I don't know why this was on my head earlier. People often people often shy away from busy people. Well, we can't ask them because they're busy. Well, actually, you're crazy if you don't.
Yep.
Okay. And they're busy because they're really engaged people in life, right? And your task with a busy person is to get them to see your organization as a priority in their time pie, right? There's all these different, everybody has slices. If this is your all the time you have in any given day, you have there are these different slices that are used for different things. Huge chunk for sleeping, right? There's parts for eating or for being with family or whatever the case may be. My project with anybody is, if I really want them bad enough, is I want to get a piece of that. I want a slice of that, which might require them to replace something that they're already doing with me, right? And so I love it when if there's any other nonprofits talking about, well, I just don't ask people that are really busy. I'm like, good, keep doing that. You're putting yourself way behind the 8 ball if you're not doing that. So definitely want to be asking people who are busy.
Love that. Love that. I love that. Adrienne White made the comment that she loves that reframing of busy people, right? Because it's so true. They can either feel imposed upon or they just know that they have these gifts and talents that they can just do something a lot quicker and easier than someone who doesn't have those gifts and talents. Absolutely right. Melanie?
Yeah, no, I love that too. I mean, all of my people are busy people on purpose. And I think that because busy people get things done. That's the other thing. And I usually will ask them to, let me be one of the top three things that they are focused on, financially and otherwise. I think, because additionally, I would say, um, one of the things that's been helpful for me since I've been here, this is my 8th year that I just celebrated, but one of the things that helped in terms of sharing information with the board and all that was changing from reports to dashboards. Because at first we were having, when I first got here, we had a lot of reports that nobody ever read. It was just, I mean, even the financial reports were the entire P&L and the entire, everything. And nobody was really looking at any of that stuff. And so we moved from, and so nothing was really happening either. So the board came to the meetings, voted to, do whatever, and then moved on. When we moved to dashboards, where we're giving you, hey, this is the high level, really quick, we can run through this and you can understand what's going on. They can ask questions. They feel more engaged. They are understanding and looking at, the agendas are more aligned with strategy than just reporting out. And that to me was a game changer in terms of the kind of person that I got on my board, the kind of engagement that the board members had as well, and my ability to, keep them engaged. Because as long as we were giving them these big stacks of paper or sending out all these, 15 attachments in an email, it was not, we weren't getting the same level of engagement.
Gotcha. That's
Oh, I
great.
love it. I love it. Moving from the weather report to a conversation.
All right.
Well, and that is incredible. And Pam, we've got one question that popped up in here that came from Adrian. And do you mind if I go ahead and ask it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
So,
we run out of time.
yeah, Melanie, what portion of your time is spent managing the board, and how do you feel like you're optimizing that part? And, that also allows you to remain focused on the key mission.
Yeah. Um, it depends. That's the answer, right? It depends largely on what's going on at the time. Right now, we're in the middle of a capital campaign, and so I have a lot more engagement with the board because they're also helping to raise the money. When in non-capital campaign times, I'm still engaged with them, but maybe a little bit less. In terms of if I had to give a percentage of the time, I probably spend, I would say 10 to 15% of my time almost every day doing something with a board member or the board, where I'm either calling, texting, following up with something, responding to something that they may have, asked, that kind of thing. So I'm pretty engaged with them on an ongoing basis. Again, it's not just I only see them when they come to the meeting, or I only see them when they come to an event. They work. They're on committees. They have things that they're supposed to be doing, and so there's activities that they have to take care of that are helping us, perform the mission.
That's great.
And,
Same
yeah,
to
go
Jeff,
ahead.
right? Yeah, Jeff, please.
Yeah, that's great. Good question again. Yeah, I love hearing how Melanie talks about her board and how she empowers them and expects of them to be contributing in really big ways. She's talking about having them raise money, which, gosh, that's a rarity, and I did too. It was a really important part. They had to maintain a portfolio of about 10 people and maintain the relationship with them as a donor. Um, excuse me. But yes, the I would agree with the time frame that Melanie shares, and agree with the it depends on the season, whatever's going on will dictate that. The underlying thing, and I'm not saying this is what is brought up in this question, but what I've often seen in nonprofit leaders is they struggle with understanding what's important, right?
Mm.
My one of my great blessings in my CEO role was learning how to sort priority, right? Um, and I love doing things like this, and I do these things in our community. My work at Sherwood Oaks, we have a lot of community partners, and I love working with the nonprofit leaders there too. And it's a regular battle rhythm story of I just don't have time for things, right? I don't have time for well the rea it or they don't have time for the things I maybe bring to the table that they ought to be considering, right? And they are rat racing themselves, right? Just headlong and immersed in things that as a CEO or an executive director they shouldn't be engaged in. Um, and they're going to continue down that path until they have that epiphany that, oh my gosh, there are these higher level things that I need to be doing that are really going to take my organization to the next level. And until they see themselves as somebody who has to maximize themselves through others, that's a huge part of it, right? Finding, it's giving away all the work that has to be done. Yes, I have to manage all that too, but I have got to empower people to do all the things that need to happen in our organization, including fundraising, for me. And until I recognize that, I will be stuck. It'll be quicksand feet for a long, long time. But managing the board is a really, that's all part of expanding and giving away your work. You're giving away all that work, and you've got to engage them to keep them going and moving forward. So
Wonderful, wonderful. We are at a place in this webinar where Andy is going to ask if any folks have questions, if there's any others, and do our wrap up. But this has been phenomenal for me. I wasn't surprised by the quality of answers, just based on my experience with Melanie, and then getting to learn and meet you, Jeff. This has been awesome. Andy, you want to
Yeah,
kind of
and speak of great things, fellow four-timer, I think RJ from Dallas. This is his fourth session with us, I believe. Asked a really he shared a note in the question, and I'm going to summarize it this way to Melody and Jeff. He's got a board that likes what they're doing, but they're adverse to raising money. And
classic.
this is also classic where you've got a nonprofit board that has the founder on it and longtime investor in it. And we see a board struggle with this where board members think, oh, the founder's going to take care of it because they've been bankrolling it this whole time. But how do y'all in your work with board members get over those hurdles of fundraising
Yeah.
and active participation? And Jeff, Melanie, I'll let y'all flip a coin of who wants to go first.
Well, I'll go first. Jeff's answer may be a little more robust. So, I think one of the things that, well, we've done a couple of things. One of the things that I've done is at our last annual board retreat, that's what we talked about was the board's responsibility for raising money. We had a monopoly theme. We talked about helping to move people around the board and those kinds of things or whatever. But I kind of gamified it, but to help them get comfortable with it. So sometimes they're uncomfortable asking for money because either they're afraid somebody's going to ask them something they don't know. And sometimes they will. I say, well, they ask me stuff I don't know. Just say you don't know, and you'll find out, and you'll get back to them as soon as you can. The other thing that I do a lot of times with my board members is tell them that they don't necessarily have to make the ask. What I need for them to do is to introduce me to the people, and I will make the ask. And so because they have their circle of folks that they know that will be able to do it. And I mean, and you're going to have a wide range of people. I have one board member who she used to do fundraising, so she's all in. She introduced me to a foundation. They came here one day. I met them. I toured them. We talked about what we did. We got $1 million from her for the campaign. That doesn't happen all the time, but it was amazing. And it's a relationship that I would not have had the board member not made that introduction. I have other board members who will call me and say, hey, I think we need to talk to this person. They may not, again, be willing to make an ask, but they will invite them up to the campus because if we can get them to the campus, we can show them what we're doing. We can talk about what we're doing, those kinds of things. And so I think it is really helping them understand. And I guess the third thing too is I tell them, because I feel the same way, I'm not begging for money. I am telling people, I'm asking people to invest in the people that we serve. That's really what I'm doing. And this is why this is beneficial. This is how it helps you. This is how it helps, the organization. This is how it helps the families that we serve. So, by doing those things, I try to minimize or eliminate the whole, oh, I don't like asking for money kind of thing. Because I tell them, and I'll even say to them, I don't either, right? I don't like asking for money. But I realize and understand that it takes money to run the organization and it takes money to support the families that we serve. And so we do it.
I love that. RJ really liked the retreat, the monopoly, moving people around the board. He liked that comment. Jeff,
Yeah, it's great. You're refreshing,
very.
Melanie. I love it. Yes, the word investment is a really important one to be using when talking about that. A couple things that I would share. First of all, why don't board members like it? Well, it's fear-based. This is you are tapping into fear. And so it's really important to break down all of the different individual things that are part of that fear, and then helping them to push through that veil of fear and go to that moment where you ask. So we spend a lot of time with training. We do have an annual campaign that our board members are in charge of. They raise about $250,000 a year for the organization in an annual campaign for operating. And so that there's always a kickoff training that goes on with that, and a lot of thought and energy goes into that, and most of it is just tearing down the fear. There's always one mistake I think people make is they spend a lot of time. You got to get off the whole concept of the ask, right? The ask is a moment in time that is very brief, right? It's as simple as this, Pam. Would you consider a gift of $750 to support the Boys and Girls Club? That's the ask. It's 20 seconds. Most of the work, the vast majority of the work is really in the front side. And they call it development for a reason, right? It's building the relationship. It's sharing the mission. It's introducing them in all kinds of different ways to what it is that we do. It's getting them excited about what you do. And then it makes it, they almost are, some people end up, they're not quite begging you, but they're like, gosh, how can I help? Well, if they're saying that, then just turn to them and say, would you consider a gift of X amount of dollars to the Boys and Girls Club? And that's, the big deal is you just got to spend time on the development. And that's where a lot of people are a lot more comfortable. But it also goes to you got to pick people you got to get people on your board who are gregarious, who like to be with others, who like to relationship build, right? Because if they're not that way, then they're gonna hate all that part. All that stuff is not gonna be fun to them. So anyway, but good.
I want to say just one thing. One of the things that I've done, and I don't recommend this to everybody, but it's worked for me, is that I don't often, most of the time, I don't ask for a specific amount of money. And I've gotten more money that way than if I had asked for a specific amount. And I know that a lot of, traditionally it is, you've done your wealth engine checks and you're finding out how much you think the people need to give and all that kind of stuff, which is great. But I have had so much more success by just asking them to prayerfully consider how they want to support the organization. And I can give, countless examples of had I asked for $25,000, I would have gotten $25,000. But I didn't ask for 25,000 and actually got 450,000. I've had, other instances where if I had asked for 10,000, I would have gotten 10,000 and instead I got 50,000. So sometimes it is just again, as Jeff is saying too, it is about the relationship, the development of that and all of that. But for me, again, I don't recommend it to everybody. But for me, that's been a great way to do it.
But also too, the development side that Jeff was mentioning, Melanie Connor has out just wonderful relationships.
Yeah.
And I think that the trust, the integrity, the stewardship, there are so many things that kind of feed into that as well. You're right. It doesn't work for everyone. Jeff, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I was going to ask, Melanie, is your organization, is it very clearly a faith-based organization?
Yeah, I mean, it's born out of the church.
Okay.
We don't have scripture all over the website and all that, but definitely faith-based.
So that, and if I, just for clarity for people, if I was in your shoes, Melanie, at this point, what I've even much short time at church, our church is going through a capital campaign. I would agree with you. I would probably use your tactic. In the secular world, however, best practices are to ask for a specific amount. And be really candid with somebody. But yes, if you can actually have the conversation about them being prayerful, I would agree with you 100%. That's a great tactic in that realm.
Yeah, well, I tell everybody to be prayerful, whether I don't care where they came from. Corporation, I don't care where they came from.
I love
you
it.
need to pray about this.
I love it. I love it.
Oh, and I do. And y'all have touched on so many themes without us prompting you that we have been talking about in this journey. Melanie, how you use your board members, we framed it as ambassadors, askers, or advocates. You're one of the three. Not everybody has the talents or the Clifton strengths for to do each of those things, but there are those folks who can do one of those. And Jeff, I love how you have an active board, and I witnessed them having the conversations of getting prepared for the annual campaign and talking about their portfolios as a group. I mean, that was just so amazing. And the last thing I will share that really amazed me about being with Jeff at a board meeting is typically when Pam and we attend board meetings, we're usually at the back of the room or off to the side. And where was Jeff? Sitting right next to me in the back of the room, and his board chair was in the middle in the front. And that to me said so much. Walking in the door, not really knowing what's happening, but the fact that Jeff has that strong of a board where he could sit in the back of the room, and when he's called upon, he then gets up. I mean, that's just such a powerful place, and someplace one day, if I'm in that role as Jeff was, I hope I could be in that similar position, because that was just amazing.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. We are just about wow, almost an hour. So, Andy, you want to go ahead and close us out? I will tell you that RJ said prayer changes things. It's good stuff.
Yeah. And so kind of the last few things. First, again, Jeff, Melanie, thank you so much for your wisdom. I wrote so much I was flipping the page over as you
So,
guys
me
were.
too. Yeah.
And so thank you so much. Pam, thank you for this journey again. If anybody has questions, please, you're welcome to reach out to us. Our email and phone numbers are all on here when we send this out afterwards. If you've got questions, you're welcome to do it. And then if you want to chat about your boards, what's happening, where are your strengths, where are your weaknesses? I know Pam and I have had some really great conversation with folks over these last couple of months that has led to some other things. And so we're always interested in you being healthy, having great boards, and because we want you to be successful, because ultimately, if your board is successful, you're successful. But lastly, your mission is making a difference in your community. And that's why we do this. So thank you.
Right. Wonderful.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much to all of our speakers, and thank you to everyone for attending. There will be a follow-up email sent out in the next couple of days with a recording to share with whomever was unable to attend. Everybody have a great holiday season and a great rest of your day.